Happy Sunday and welcome back to r/EntitledParents. I have 3 stories for you today. Our first story today, Grandma Karen calls police and child protective services on me for assaulting her grandchild. I coloured her hair pink. I've been babysitting 2 little girls, 3 and 5 years old, for over a year now. I know their parents since I was a child. I'm 21 now, and we get along very well. A month ago, I decided to dye my hair in a red-brownish colour. When I babysat the kids, they loved it. Their parents are quite okay with little girls playing with makeup and fashion. So when I was done babysitting, I asked the mum if I could bring some fun fashion things to play with the next time. That next time was last week. When I got there, I opened my beauty case and showed them what I got. Necklaces, costumes, hair ties, makeup, frozen perfume, and pink hair dye. I asked both of their parents if it was okay for me to dye their hair pink, since it's their favourite colour. I informed them that it was temporary hair dye designed for kids and it could be washed out immediately, so it was pretty much harmless. The parents laughed a bit with me and told me that it was fine, but they specifically asked me to put them in a bath without washing their hair. I guess that's because they wanted to see it the next morning. They said goodbye and told me that crazy butt grandma would come home around midnight to pay me. La-di-da-di-da. Some amazing haute couture hours later, the doorbell rang. It was only around 9 PM and the girls were still awake. I put them in their bathrobes and night diapers, I was getting them ready for bed, and put them in front of the TV, and then I went to open the door. It was Grandma Karen. She was almost 3 hours early. Without even saying hello, she entered, almost knocked me over, and while walking to the living room, she opened her purse to get a €50 bill. As soon as she went to hand me the bill, she seized their pink hair and lost her darn marbles. "What in the Jesus and Mary have you done to my babies?" Oh, don't worry, we just played fashionistas. It's okay, it can be washed out. She runs to the girls and starts screaming hysterically. "What has she done to your beautiful golden hair?" "Ma'am, it's okay. Mum and Dad have given me permission to do it." "Shut up. Who do you even think you are to just come here and assault my babies?" She proceeds to scream at me for a couple more minutes. "This is abuse. I'm calling the police on you. You're the worst thing a human can possibly be." Okay, so at this point I started to freak out. Even though I knew I didn't do anything wrong, the thought of being interrogated made me almost crap my pants. She freaking held me hostage in her living room while continuing her screaming and moaning. She even wrinkled the €50 bill, like toilet paper, and shoved it down her pocket. Curse words after curse words left her mouth. "Oh my goodness, I can't believe their parents would even hire someone like you. You probably have a criminal record, don't you? I hope you get 20 years in prison, you derogatory term. You ruined my baby's life. You traumatized them. This is abuse. The police are on their way." Evil smirk. "You will never find a job again." "Oh, babies. Did that witch hurt you? She did, didn't she? Oh my goodness, you also cut it." "I didn't. You've probably been assaulting them for a month now, huh?" Think about the most Karen you know, double her age and shorten her hair. That was what I had to deal with for almost half an hour. Oh, she also said that me colouring my hair, like one of those women who walks up and down in a red light district, was a bad influence for her kids in general. Anyways, I was able to text her parents during her rant. They arrived not too long after the police and a child protective services officer. You can only imagine how they reacted, lol, but they couldn't leave until the parents arrived to make sure everything was okay. Officers left, Mum and Dad freaked out. They kept apologising to me. Mind you, this was happening all in front of the girls because Grandma Karen didn't let me put them in bed. Not only did she give me the most violent verbal attack I have ever seen, she also ruined the parents' date night. When I left to go home, I started crying, lol. But hey, I got paid double that night and the girl's hair looked fabulous. PS. Since she lied about me assaulting the girls and verbally attacked me, I think I can charge her for it. The police officer gave me his number to contact him if I wanted to. Should I though? I really want to put her in her place, but that would affect the parents and I love them so much. Sorry, but I've read so many of these stories and people seem to call the police for any old reason. Like, it's ridiculous. Is that really what people, wherever this is, spend their time doing? People have used fake notes. People have stolen right in front of me in places where I have worked or have been a customer, and I've reported it or passed the information on, and I know for a fact that no one has called the police about it. Ridiculous, man. So much time to waste. The police would laugh. The police would laugh if you caught someone stealing at a supermarket and you called them up. They would laugh at you. And in this situation, bruh, this lady will be done. She would be done. Just for the fact of just wasting police time. Okay, on to our next story. I got a little bit salty there, bro. Boomer tries to steal my baby. I'm a 20-year-old female with a 3-month-old son. We took our son to the park for the first time. They have swings, good for little babies, so we had him in there. He absolutely loved it, by the way. There was an older lady there with 3 kids. I'm assuming her grandchildren, because they were pretty young and she seemed my grandma's age. She was eyeing us up the moment since we got there. My fiance is a smoker and he's not allowed anywhere near the baby while smoking. So he went to the baseball fields to sit and smoke. This is a decent ways away. Even though this is a very, very small town, I didn't know the woman as we didn't live in the town that we are currently at. We lived in the biggest town in that county, but apparently the county's park didn't have swings, even though it's huge. What? But I was very familiar with this town as I lived here for many years when I was younger, so he was fine with leaving us alone, just not familiar enough to know the people anymore. My step-grandparents also lived here, so I felt comfortable. After my fiance had went over to the ballpark, this lady approached me and began talking to me. She asked me how I liked babysitting. I laughed and told her I wasn't babysitting and that this was my son. This set her off. She grabbed a hold of my wrist and told me, don't lie to her, that I'm too young for this to be my son and that she doesn't believe me. She told me if I didn't produce valid forms of identity for both of us, then she would call the police for kidnapping. See, another one. So here's the issue with that. I don't carry my wallet on me that often, and the only forms of identification I have for my son is his insurance card, as his birth certificate and social security card have not come in yet due to everything being bogged down from the current situation. I told the lady that, and she turned in her grip on my wrist, stating, that's a lie, because they give you documents at the hospital. They don't. It was escalated to the point where she shoves me down and tries to grab my son, stating that she'll be keeping a hold of him until the cops arrived. I quickly got up and grabbed my son from her. I didn't punch her, but I did sort of palm her nose, which I guess I did harder than I meant to, as she started bleeding. She yelled at me that she was going to press charges for assault. My fiance was making his way back during this time and caught the tail end of the confrontation. Skipping ahead to when the cops show, they are talking to each of us, but the old lady won't stop screeching, so they take her further away to talk. I'm in complete fight mode and terrified. I'm frantically explaining that I don't have ID, but this is my son. We just came here to the park to play. If there was any way I could prove I was the mother of my son, a photo of him getting pulled from me during a C-section would be it, and him on my chest a few hours later. Obviously he looks different now, but you can tell it's the same boy. So we were allowed to go home, and we're told we'd be hearing from someone about the assault and charges against this woman. I'm aware there is some context missing, but I just really don't have the time to sit down and write down everything, so if there's any questions, I'll try and answer them to the best of my ability. Update. We set up an appointment with a lawyer for this Monday, and we will be going to the police station later today. We called ahead and made an appointment for 3. Now it's currently noon. Someone had mentioned seeing if the park had cameras. I was pretty sure they didn't, as it's a very small area, but I called anyways, and it turns out they did. And our final story today, entitled mother parks her extra car in my space just because I own a bike and it doesn't need much space. Okay, so I live in a residential building in India and we were allotted only one parking space per flat. So when I went out to buy essential items, I come back to find my parking occupied and immediately called the security. Security went and fetched the owner of the car, and so enter the entitled mother. I ask her to move her car as I need to park my bike there. She tells me that since I own a bike, I need to park it outside, and her son deserves the parking for his new car. I refuse to budge and demand that she takes her car out, or else that I will proceed legally if she doesn't move out. But not without calling me a malu and then moving her car. She is North Indian and has in fact settled in my state, and yet has the courage to call me that. Well, that's number 2, isn't it? Hopefully it's still Sunday. Have a lovely, lovely week. Back to work for me. And yeah, I have to admit I was a bit surprised by the rate in which child protection services arrived from one phone call. In the UK, it takes like 1 to 3 days before any of the people even think about moving to your house to investigate. Anyway, ta-ta for now.